Back to chapter 1, verse 26. Vayomer Elokim nase Adam b'tzalmenu kidmutenu. And God said, let us make mankind in our image after our likeness. V'yirdu bidgat hayam. They should have dominion over the fish of the sea, uva'ov hashamayim, and over the birds of the air, uva'behema, and over all domesticated animals, or not necessarily domesticated, v'chol haaretz, over the whole earth, v'chol haremes haromes al haaretz, and on all creeping things that creep over the earth. Now, it's very interesting language. Na'aseh Adam. Why does the verse say, let us make mankind in our image? This is like a field day for Christian missionaries, but you should not be led astray. After all, it does say that God created man in the singular. So who's we? Who's us over here? Now, Rashi says, Na'aseh Adam, explaining that language. Here we learn the humility of the Holy One, blessed be He. Interesting. Why would God need the trait of humility whatsoever? In other words, gava or pride or grandeur is certainly a characteristic that would be perfectly legitimate and fitting when it comes to God. Nevertheless, we see that we are supposed to emulate our Creator, and one of the midot, one of the characteristics we are supposed to emulate, is His anivut, His humbleness. Lefish Adam hu b'demut hamalachim, since man would be made in the likeness of the angels, and therefore they would become jealous of man. God, so to speak, made it an easier thing for the angels by taking counsel with them, making it almost sound like let's both create man, as if they have a share in it, as if they have some sort of a way of participating. Ramban has a different take on it. God said, let us make man. There was a special command dedicated to the making of man because of his great superiority, since his nature is unlike that of beasts and cattle, which were created with the preceding command. In other words, why would there need to be two different commands on the sixth day? You know, if we're talking about all flesh, if we're talking about all moving things, all living things, all animals, why did there need to be one verse for the animals and another verse for man? The Ramban says the correct explanation of na'aseh, which is let us make man, that's the plural form when it should have been in the singular, is as follows. It has been shown to you that God created something from nothing. We say that God creates ex nihilo, or in Hebrew, yesh me'ayin, that the world was brought into existence from nothingness. But the Ramban says that's only on the first day, because once he created the universe, then all of the material from which everything else is created is already present. Therefore, after the first day, God is essentially creating yesh mi yesh, something from something. So he then made things from those created elements. Thus, when he gave the waters the power of bringing forth a living soul, it says yishritzu hamayim in Genesis chapter 1, verse 20, that it sounds like it's saying that the waters themselves should cause things to swarm in the sea. That the sea creatures are essentially made from the elements that are present in the waters. And hamamar babahema, when it comes to animals, totsei haaretz. Right? That's verse 24. That essentially the earth is producing the animals. The animals are produced from the material that the earth is made of. When it comes to man, on the other hand, it says na'aseh. It's not simply a command given to a singular party to generate that thing, but is actually a call to collaboration. What does that mean? Ani v'ha'aretz. It's going to be me, says God, and the aretz, and the land is going to be involved in the creation of mankind. Na'aseh Adam, we will create man. Shetotzi ha'aretz haguf miyisodeha. The earth will put forth the body, the physical body of human beings from the elements that are present in the earth. And that is absolutely true. If we look at our bodies, we are calcium, we are phosphorus, we are proteins and water. All the things that you can find in the soil. That's why we are called Adam. We are named after the Adamah, after the ground. Right. So, right, and it says that V'yitzer Hashem Elokim et ha'adam afar min ha'adamah, created him out of the dust of the ground. But then it also said, now what's the collaborative element? The fact that God then placed a soul in that physical body. And that's why it says, Vayipach ba'apav nishmat chayim, he blew the breath of life into the nostrils of Adam. And this is how essentially Adam is animated. Nothing like this is said about the animals. The animals also need to be animated in some way. But we are essentially, our life force is the very soul that God has placed within us. And as we know, that when you blow something into something else, what you are blowing out is coming from the very depths of you, right? In other words, the air that you breathe out came from within you, came from within the deepest recesses of your body. So the idea of Vayipach ba'apav nishmat chayim, that he blew the breath of life into the nostrils of Adam, is telling us that God has placed within man something that is essentially internal to God himself, which is the soul. Right. Now it said also, we said, B'tzalmenu kidmutenu, that Adam is going to be made in the image and likeness of God. How so? Because man is similar to both elements, both the earthly element and the spiritual element. There really is no difference from a physical standpoint between human beings and animals. We have the same 10 or 11 organ systems. You know, we have pretty much the same needs. I'm not talking about the cerebral cortex type needs. I'm talking about the most basic instinctive, needs of hydration and nutrition and everything else, shelter and the like. But we have in us nishmat chayim. We have the breath of life that has been given to us, the soul that's been given to us by God. And therefore, when it says b'tzalmenu kidmutenu, we are more God-like. We resemble God more because we have this extra item, which brings wisdom, which brings a spiritual sense. And therefore it says in the image of God, he created him in order to relate the distinction by which man is distinguished from the rest of the created beings. That means that human beings have two directions that they could go in. They could be drawn after the physical aspect of themselves, or they could be drawn after the spiritual, drawn downward or drawn upwards. That's the choice that is in the hands of a human being.